Hello everybody. I am nervous. I'll just give you that warning. Hold on a second. Okay, before my slide works, I'll give you my personal context. I have been lucky enough to be on maternity leave for 2 out of the last 4 years. And along that journey, I guess you start to see the world through the eyes of a toddler who constantly asks questions. What is this? But why? But why? But why? But why? Constantly. And I came back to school and I was really excited to be back, and I noticed that a lot of my students weren't asking questions. And I thought, why is it that I've got a 3-year-old who is constantly asking me questions, but 15-year-olds in my classroom who are just sitting there passively? So one of my goals has been trying to make my students become more active thinkers. My Year 7 class last term read Plain Beatty Bo. Wanted to give them a modern Australian classic with a little bit of history involved, and they struggled with it. So I got them to write me some questions. I said, ask me any question you have about the novel. And I was quite surprised with what I got, because I found that these questions were quite basic. And it made me realise my Year 7 students don't know how to ask the right questions. So what I did with them was I actually showed them Bloom's taxonomy, because I thought, you know, there's only 6 elements, there's just quite easy for them to look at, and I jumbled them all up and I said, what do you think is the most challenging skill? And it led to a really, really great debate about what's harder, being creative or recalling information or understanding or evaluating. And for them, it was really good because they just started to think about thinking. We've been talking, sorry I say a lot, my colleagues have tallied me when I've presented this, it's rather embarrassing. So, lovely Pat Moran, our head teacher secondary studies, passed me a book when I told him about my interest in questioning. And I read through, these are some of the key points that I've taken out of one of the chapters, and I think it's really important that if we're talking about collaboration, we need to teach our students explicitly how to collaborate, and they're not always good at it, partly because they don't know how to ask one another the questions, and they may or may not be very good listeners. So that second point there, where we as teachers tend to follow that initiate, respond, evaluate model, where we ask the questions, students answer it, we go, yep, well done, move on. And I think students become reliant on that over a period of time, and I don't know, do they get to high school and they just look at us as the people who have to be the ones asking questions? I think students should be asking more questions than we do. So it's, you know, I think like trying to ignite this spark in them to ask us where to go next, or ask one another. So what I did was using, what did I use here? OneNote. I had an interactive whiteboard, smartboard in my classroom, and I typed up all their questions, and I gave them 4 categories, and I said, where do these questions fall? Is it a recall type question? Is it an understanding type question? Are you analysing, or are you evaluating the text? Which also led to a fair bit of debate, and the students recognising that most of their questions are at quite a low order level. I'm nearly out of time. Now I'm lost by that, Simon. I got the 1 minute call. I got my students to look at these common qualities of what, who, where, why and how, and looking at the difference between what makes a lower order question and what makes a tougher question. sorry, I'm so lost because I've just realised I'm nearly out of time. I got the students then to come together and talk about what makes an effective group discussion, and we actually scripted, they gave me a script in groups of what kind of questions they could ask one another. And I found just by focusing on different questions, the students then came up with better questions to ask one another. So where do we go from here? As a staff, at Chroma we are we are asking one another what kind of questions are our students asking, why do we want them to ask them, and how do we go about it? And that's all I have, so thank you. Well done.